the globe. Let me start by saying that the concept of giving back to our society has no restriction based on our profession or our call of duty, and rather I would say that our jobs are measured by which I will reach out to the society positively. And let me start by welcoming my real talkers. How are you doing, guys? And of course, my name remains Kike Atanda-Owo. I'm the convener of the show. How are you doing?
I'm great, Kike. Good to see you again. I saw you last 2 weeks ago.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
It's up to 2 weeks.
Yes,
You've not
really.
been on the show
2
since
weeks,
2 weeks.
yeah.
Oh, interesting.
I follow the schedule.
It seems,
Anyway.
it seems you were swept under the,
Well, I don't know.
You were swept off your feet for Valentine. I can see that you still have a touch of, whether it's burgundy,
Kike, you're the one who has a touch of red.
I actually deliberately want something to have a touch of red.
I wasn't even thinking about that.
Yeah.
Anyway, good afternoon, viewer. It's good to have you join us on this show today. Let's get some information from our guest and have fun with us. Try and call him if you have to.
All right, let me pull your legs a little bit. When you
Yes.
say that, you're not even thinking about, do you think you're too old for love?
No, I haven't said that.
All right, many thanks for that response. How you
Okay,
doing,
you're
Marsha?
naughty.
How you doing? And many thanks for the Valentine cake from
Marsha,
hello.
I'm good.
Valentine.
You kick it took that out of my mouth. Good to see you.
Kike, happy Valentine. It's good to know that you still have a touch of red on, even though it's gone past the Valentine's Day. And
Do you know what I chose to say? I chose to say I love you instead of saying Happy
Exactly. I love you
Valentine.
too. I love you
Valentine
too.
is long dead.
I love you too.
I love you. I love you, sis.
Yes, and we love you, our viewers. We want to say thank you for joining us on the show today. We promise it's going to be a wonderful
don't believe
show.
him?
My name is Marshall Anthony Ononye. Welcome.
All right. I don't need you guys to continue to banter on this thing. Guys, exactly 23 years ago, one of the leaders in Nigeria did something in one of the ruling parties in Nigeria, to be precise. Let's get the details from our On This Day in History segment. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
On this day in history, in 1999, exactly 23 years ago, former military ruler Obasanjo won the presidential nomination of the People's Democratic Party (PDP). In recent times, PDP bigwigs led by its national chairman, Dr. Iwochia Ayu, visited Obasanjo in his Abeokuta, Ogun State residence, during which the former president remarked, and I quote, "I have been with the party right from inception. Whatever I do in my own life, because I became president on the platform of PDP, PDP will continue to be part of the history of my life. But having said that, the day that in my ward I decided to tear my PDP card was the day I ceased to be a member of PDP. And that day, I vowed that I will not be a member of any political party again, but I will remain a statesman in Nigeria, in West Africa, and indeed in the world."
Right, exactly 23 years ago. Efo, let me come to you for what's your take on it?
Well, I find the former president, Olusegun Obasanjo, very interesting. I hate or like him. He's a man of his words. He keeps his words, and he keeps to his word. And at that point where he told his what's it called?
His voters card.
Voters
sorry,
card.
I beg your pardon. Membership card.
Membership card of the
Yes.
PDP. I thought that was very dramatic, you know. But well said. If we ask a question, has he represented as a true statesman in Africa? I think he has done that, you know. And his administration pulled off a good one by cleaning out our debt, you know, the Paris Club.
At the time.
You know, at that time.
Because the debts.
Yeah, at that time,
Because the
you know,
debts are back again.
because I know, because he was able to put a crop of technocrats together, you know, to run his government, and the country was on track. But now, I leave that to you.
I
to
think
judge.
one of the things that
Yes.
I admire about him is the fact that, you know, the platform that made him the president.
Yes.
He has said that
He
will continue-
recognized
he
them.
recognizes
Yes,
it,
true.
and he will never let that depart from him, regardless of
Yes.
whatever situation or challenges that
True.
he might find himself. There are times, you know, in a country where we know how, especially in Nigeria, to be precise, where our leaders doesn't really, I don't know how to say it, they pot from one
They jump boats
party
one
to the other. But
yes.
hearing a man
Yes.
like that still aligns with the platform.
That's why I
that
say he keeps
fetched him,
his
do you
word.
understand?
Yeah.
And I also feel that my takeaway from this, I agree with you when you said that he's a statesman. As far as I'm concerned, he has remained a statesman, and not just in Africa, but globally. And it's something that not many of our presidents or our leaders have got to attain. And that I say kudos to him. But Masha, quickly, what's your take on
I
this
think
industry segment?
you've just both said it all. I admire, the man is somebody that is very admirable for his words and his actions, especially how he ruled in the time he was president. And most especially the development he brought to Nigeria, the telecommunications, and then you spoke about the waivers he got from the Paris Club debt. And so far, I think he's represented himself as a good statesman.
And Kike, an addition that we always forget. Do you know he has a really good sense of humor?
Oh yeah.
He does.
Oh yeah.
He does.
I remember when I visited him in his house, and you know, I was laughing after the conversation.
He really does have
yes,
a good
you're
sense
right.
of humor.
But quickly, because of time, it's important for us to get a quick message from our sponsors. Please stay with us. We'll be right back. All right, on Real Talk with Kike, we take action beyond the studios, and I must say that we are concerned about the various sectors of our economy and the stakeholders' action in those sectors. And on the show today, I think it's important for me to emphasize that this exclusive interview took out discuss on inquiries, and the Real Talk actually took place with the Honorable Minister for Works and Housing, that is Babatunde Raji Fashola San. And today we will be airing another exclusive interview on him, especially when it comes to all he has done thus far. Let's go straight to the interview itself to avail ourselves of the development of the Ministry of Works and Housing. And like I said earlier, I engaged him on all sides. I asked him on all the pertinent questions, well, that I believe Nigerians should be more we should be more what now? Should be more focused on. Thank you. Because my co-hosts have been asking me all sorts in the studio. Did you ask him this? Did you ask him that? I don't think that is quite important at the moment. But Nigerians would want to know ranging questions from budget to finance to housing to welfare, to all the synergies of all the way to challenges affecting the ministry. Let's the interview play now. Please stay with us. We'll be right back. All right, I'm honored to be in the presence of the Honorable Minister for Works and Housing, Babatunde Raji Fashola, and who was a two-term governor of Lagos State, and today the current Minister for Works and Housing since 2015. I wish I can go into a brief story, but I think I've already shared that with him when I entered his office. But more importantly, I think it's important for me to first off acknowledge and commend his achievements in this ministry since 2015. And I must say, excellent afternoon again. Many thanks for hosting us, because of course you're in your office, so you're the host. How are you doing today, sir?
Well, I'm fine. Thank you very much for having me on your show. And well, we'll have the debate about who is the host or not. Location or no location.
Okay, many thanks for honoring us. So I think going straight to the topic at hand, because I know that the Federal Ministry of Works and Housing on Thursday received a check of 210 billion from Sukuk. I hope I pronounced that properly. This check was for the funding of, for the execution of critical roads projects across Nigeria, across the country. But the Sukuk, which is a form of private partnership, that is a PPP, was among the funding options adopted by the federal government under the President Muhammadu Buhari to fund the constructions of critical roads in Nigeria. I want you to please bring us to speed on what the development is thus far.
Well, first let me say that yes, we got that symbolic check, and it is important to emphasize that that was a symbolic check through the ministry. And in true symbolism also, you will see that I also handed the symbolic check to the contractors, because they are the ones who really will use the money to buy supplies from their suppliers. The money doesn't stay with one person. It just goes into the economy. Those who supply diesel, bitumen, crushed stone, sharp sand, cement, concrete reinforcement, steel reinforcement, labor. That's where the money goes. So to that extent, you're right. Excuse me. And the 210 billion will be spread across contractors handling 60 different contracts. So you will see that although the money has increased from 100 billion in 2017 for 25 routes to 200 billion now, 210 billion now to 60 different contracts. We are not getting enough. The obligation is expanding quicker than the resources. Also important to note, which you highlighted, this is an investment of private capital into public infrastructure. So it's a type of PPP, and it is also a type of lending, because those are the two things. The difference between the sukuk and the conventional lending is that sukuk is Islamic type lending, so they don't charge interest in that sense, and therefore we have this agreement where they supervise and notionally part own the road notionally until they are fully paid back their money. So again, there's a governance process, therefore, for certification of the work done. The ministry doesn't touch the money, we don't see the money. But we certify the work that the contractors have done. The Sukuk has a team of trustees and consultants of their own who go out every time to verify that this work has actually been done, are certified, and then pay.
Interesting. Many thanks for that submission, and I think that I'm glad that you threw a lot of light on this. Especially, I think when you were talking, you spoke about slash, and I think according to newspaper reports, your ministry, that is the Ministry for Budget, has slashed your budget, from 260 billion naira, I think, in 2015, and to 234 billion naira in 2021. I'm not sure if that has been reviewed now, but your ministry, as far as I'm concerned, with the little research that I've done, is really doing pretty well and doing a lot more than what is being given to you. So it's more like less of resources, if you ask me. So my question is, how is your ministry struggling, for lack of a better word now, struggling with the challenge of the resources given to you, and with a lot that you are doing, more so that now that the government is always looking at a foreign source of financial support in terms of borrowing and all of that? What do you have to say to this?
Okay, so I think what we must understand is that today, compared to the opportunities that were missed, where oil is approaching $100 per barrel now, but let's see what that brings and how long it lasts. But we had almost a decade where oil prices stood at between 90 and 100 and something, and they were missed opportunities. So, and that is as far as comparisons should go. What is instructive also is that, excuse me, since we took the ministry in 2015, we have developed a plan. And I keep saying this to people, that between a plan and money, I will choose planning first. If I have a good plan, then I will look for the money. Instead of looking for the money first and then asking myself, what's the plan? So what we've done is that we've planned Nigeria's roads, we've made priorities where the roads should lead, roads that lead to ports, seaports, airports, petrochemical, petroleum depots, roads that connect us to other countries, border roads, roads that evacuate agricultural produce, so roads that go to the most prolific agricultural regions of the country, roads that also facilitate export of made in Nigeria goods, and of course roads that are under strategic multilateral funding where we have to pay counterpart funding, We've also prioritized rehabilitation and development and construction of bridges, existing and old ones for maintenance and new ones to be constructed. We also have a priority to intervene in tertiary institutions. So with this plan, we have a cost profile of what is needed to do our work. So when money comes from the Sukuk, we can say this set of obligations under our plan can be funded by the Sukuk. When money comes from the Presidential Infrastructural Development Fund, we can say, Mr. President, dedicate this to these projects. When money comes from Road Infrastructure Tax Credit Scheme, we can say, dedicate these projects to this. These are best suited for this. And then we can keep ticking on with the budget, where you have sometimes 20, 30, 40 billion naira contract, and what you get approved is 200 million or 300 million. So what's that going to do? Nothing or almost nothing. So it's a grand strategy that has now made it easy that within a few hours we can respond and tell you clearly that if you give us $1 trillion, this is where it's going. We have that ability now.
Many thanks for that again, and I'm glad that we are still talking about budget proposal. And the reason why I want us to touch about this and have a lot of clarity for our viewers who are listening to us right now is the fact that I understand that the Senate is ensuring that the Federal Roads Maintenance Agency, that is FMEA, and its budget proposals are removed from the ministries, especially the parent Ministry of Works and Housing, on a yearly basis. So I know, and I'm wondering, your ministry is in agreement with this, but I feel that in terms of finance, if you ask me, and in terms of structure, and in terms of your vision, because you've laid out your plans now for the masses to hear, and what you've done thus far, and understanding that most of these things do not come to your ministry directly. So I must ask, does this favor your ministry, or do you say that it portends some more financial problems or challenges? I really don't like to use the word problems. I see all these things as challenges, but you see them as something that can lead to poor roads management in our country, so to speak. What's your take on this?
No. I think it's also important that people have an understanding of how FEMA came to be. Okay. My understanding is that this was the part of the old Public Works Department that used to maintain highways across Nigeria. I remember them when I was much younger, and they were a department of the Ministry of Works. Sure. From time immemorial, or Public Works Department. That's what I think they used to be known as. In the advent of democracy, it was thought that service quality will improve if that was taken out of the ministry. And somewhere along the line, I think 2000 and something, a law was passed to create Federal Road Maintenance Agency as a statutory corporation with its own managing director, with its own board. And so once it becomes a statutory corporation, all that the minister has responsibility over is what the law allows. And my work really now, I can't be the MD of FEMA. Because the board of FEMA must now go to the National Assembly, appointed on the recommendation of the minister by the president and cleared by the National Assembly. So all that remains for the minister to do is oversight them to make sure that they are carrying out maintenance work. How they do their budget, how they spend their budget, will now be a matter for appropriation to decide what is available, what they want to spend on maintenance. We won't oppose, and we should not oppose FEMA in the sense really that this government has now taken maintenance as a major economic driver. So we're not just maintaining roads, we're maintaining schools, internal roads in schools, we're maintaining federal government secretariats, we're maintaining public buildings. We want to extend this to courtrooms, to schools, to custodial facilities, to health facilities. And so this is now a national policy using maintenance to create work. So roads is only one item of many more maintenance work that will come. As long as FEMA is able to justify the resources that National Assembly appropriates for them and uses them to maintain the roads that we build, it's clear now from when FEMA was created, our work is to build the roads. After the compulsory maintenance period by the contractor, which is about 12 months, where we see if there's any defects and all of that, and there's none, the road is handed over to FEMA. Maintain it. Make sure that you don't see any potholes. So it's fine. It's a synergy that works for me. The truth is that there's too much work for us to do than for anybody to say somebody is doing my work. Let more people come and do more work.
All right. Thanks for that. I think for me is the fact that your type of leadership is about inclusion of other agencies. That's how I look at things like that, especially when it comes to maintenance culture. With all that you've shared thus far, I must say that your office, not because I really don't like to use words loosely, but I must say that your leadership skills is what has bettered so many agencies today when in terms of inclusion and the maintenance culture that we lack in our country, and I must say kudos and more work to that. But going forward, because according to your office again, at December 2021 to be precise, you said you have completed about 941 kilometers of roads across all states and geopolitical zones as well. And you reportedly said that there are about 850 ongoing projects under your ministry, including roads, bridges, construction, and the likes. And it leaves a key inquiry, if you ask me, into your mandates in terms of delivering of housing, and of course, when it comes to road in our country. So how is your office trying to, will I say, bridge the housing deficit in our country? Because I know that there are a lot of structures today that quite a number of people are raising eyebrows.
Okay, so we intervene as a housing ministry from different levels. First, from policy. Okay. We've developed a revised national building code for the country. That's so important in terms of setting out for the entire country what type of materials you can build with, how to build, how to lay pipes, cables, how to connect gas facilities, because the country is inevitably heading towards optimizing its gas resources. So we've approved minimum standards for the kind of materials that can be used to bring gas pipes into people. That's a broad national policy. And how does this then work? We take it to the National Council on Housing and Lands, which is a national meeting of me, the Minister for Housing, with the 36 commissioners for housing across the various states, and the secretary responsible for housing in the FCT, and also the professional bodies, our Institute of Architects, and all of those town planners, builders, who are represented, who participate. And that is how a national policy then dovetails down to the states. In terms of particular housing delivery, we are employing different strategy. We're building through the Federal Housing Authority, which is a statutory corporation set up by law to intervene and build. So they have houses, they build really like large estates, Festac, Gwarimpa, and perhaps now Zuba, which they are completing, some of their iconic and projects to remember. You will also see what they did, I think, in Guzakwe, in partnership with some people. So they build almost like small towns instead of just small housing estates. That's one side of the coin. The other side is the Federal Mortgage Bank, again, another parastatal, statutory parastatal we oversee involved in housing. They fund the construction of houses, they fund the provision of mortgages, and so through that, we also intervene. And right now, we inherited a scheme called the Ministerial Pilot Housing Scheme. I think it started in 2012. We have about 2,000 housing units nearing completion out of a total of almost 6,000 under that scheme. and many of them will be handed over in the next few weeks and months. But apart from that, the Federal Mortgage Bank also gives what you call home refurbishment loans to contributors, and they use it to do different things relating to housing, pay their rent, refurbish their existing buildings, and so on and so forth. Then we have a department in the ministry, the lands department. They issue COOs, they process COOs. So for people who have bought on an individual basis, or people who want to buy and sell, they process consent to transfer or sell their land. So we are playing at many levels of the housing value chain. Then there's a national housing program which was designed when our administration came. And what we wanted to do was to set, again, a broad example of the type of houses that people would like, because we realized that some housing projects failed in the past in some parts of the country where the federal government built for people and they refused to live there. We didn't want that to happen. So we consulted with people in the private sector, we consulted with our architects, and they came up with a report that for building public housing to be successful in the north, it should be more bungalows with courtyards so that the people will accept it, because that's the way they like to build.
If you say that.
And that in the south, it's not what I say, it's what the report showed. And that in the south, you can build high-rise blocks of flats because the people are accustomed to living that way. And because of the land availability too, these two distinct models were commendable. There's much more land in the north, so you can build horizontally compared to the relative compact nature of the land in the south where you need to build vertically. So that we are now demonstrating in 34 states. So the 34 states where we are implementing the result of that survey in actually delivering houses. We've opened a national housing portal for the sale and allocation of these houses online so that we make it open, transparent, and accessible. We're also undertaking research because, yes, we hear this figure, that figure, and all of that. And as I said earlier, I just like to plan. I like to know what I'm planning with. So the figures we have are unreliable, they are untested. So, and common sense and history has also shown us that most of the people who are struggling for a house in the city have left a home in their village or in their town. So those houses are empty, they are unoccupied. And that tells us, common sense tells us, that the housing scarcity problem is an urban problem, it's not a rural problem. And so we're financing a separate study to see what we can tease out from 12 urban cities in Nigeria. But more recently, I've written to the chairman of the National Population Commission, who are planning to conduct a census sometime this year, to help us also in their questionnaire and in the counting of the housing households, to find out from Nigerians who are being enumerated what their housing needs are. The result of that data will be very, very prolific and useful for planning and implementation.
All right, many thanks for that, elaborate submission. But when you were talking earlier, one of the things I wanted to put out there is the fact that one may be quick to wrongly assert that some infrastructure projects in the north gain quicker approval compared to other states. I think that probably with what you've shared now, I think I might want to understand that, but you might want to throw more light on that. But for instance, let me give you an example, because I know that the approval of almost, I think, over 115 billion or so to Kano to Katsina Road, and however, the Enugu Onitsha raises eyebrow as well, of course, for the Easterners to be precise, And same goes to the east and west road in the Niger Delta, and of course the Ibadan-Ilorin road. So what are all these challenges, with all these projects that you're handling now?
Except for the reference to how to build between the south and the north, which was an empirical study, all those other sensibilities about east, west, really, for me, I just see Nigerians, and I see a country that needs to move from north to south and east to west in order to create prosperity and opportunities for everybody. Each project has its own unique challenge. The East-West Road is not a responsibility for the Ministry of Works. The East-West Road has been transferred to the Ministry of Niger Delta Affairs many years before I became minister, when the Ministry of Niger Delta Affairs was created. So it's not our road, it's not under us. Just for completeness, you will see that the Minister for Niger Delta Affairs, Governor Godswill Akpabio, was at the presentation of the Symbolic Check on behalf of the ministry. It was for the East-West Road. They were getting 10 billion to help them fund that road. So it's not our responsibility. Of course, we still provide consultancy for them in terms of the engineering capacity and advisory whenever they reference us. The problems on each road vary from claims from compensation to court cases, litigation, community issues, hostility, community associations who want to compel contractors to use them as suppliers and subcontractors, and we have to deal with all of this. Then people who obstruct our right of way, park trailers and tankers on the right of way, trade on our right of way, and we have to move them out for safety during construction. In some places, like the Second Niger Bridge, some parts of the work require now that we relocate some of the TCN pylons, the transmission lines, those big overhead lines. It means that parts of the Enugu distribution company and some Gencos who supply power to that area, I think from Alaoji power plant, will have to shut down in order for us to do the work. So we have to consult all of the different stakeholders that we need you to do this so that we can do this. On the Abuja-Kano highway, for example, we have to make way for the Ajaokuta-Kaduna-Kano gas pipeline to cross first at a certain intersection because we need the gas. So the question is, we build first, they come and cut the road later and put the pipe again. So these are things that people don't see. So we have to give them a right of way, lay your pipeline when you're done, then we'll come and finish up our work. We also have issues with people who are encroaching our right of way there. When I went there, the truck park at Tafa Park and also at Diko Junction. The Kaduna State government is helping us. They've even provided a truck park, but they won't even go inside. They prefer to be on the road. These are some of the challenges that then, just yesterday we were meeting with lawyers who say that they are representing some clients and they want us to pay directly to them the compensation, and we are saying no, we want to give the compensation directly to the claimants, because we have seen cases where we pay compensation to agents and then the beneficiaries come and say we got only 1,000 naira. So this time we're saying, no, pay the people directly. If you are their lawyers or their agents, they will pay you their fees from their own money. We have no relationship with you. So they're saying, okay. So there's so many things that we have to deal with to build a road.
Interesting. Really, really interesting. And I like the fact that you are bringing us into speed with a lot of things that happens behind the cameras, because most time people see what happens on the surface. But earlier when you were talking about the urban challenges. I really don't like to use the word problem, like I said earlier. And I feel that the urbanization rate in Nigeria is above 51%. And at least, I think as of 2020, which is almost 1% growth from the previous year. and it is still a fair index, if you ask me, when it comes to the population. But however, we know that transportation plays a great role in maintaining a balance for expanding population, which is one of the things that you explained earlier as well. But what are the synergies, between the ministry? I want you to maybe throw more light on that, between the ministry and the Ministry of Transportation today.
Okay, first of all, urbanization growth is a global phenomenon now. In the last 50 years or 60 years, records show that more people have migrated to cities in the last 60 years than in the whole of human existence. The speed of urbanization is much more rapid in the last 6 decades than it has been in the history of human development. So it poses a challenge. But it's also the way it's also now impacting how economies are structured. And I think I was giving a speech recently whether this would not unravel, because urbanization has informed how we now build offices, provide food, provide energy, provide water in a city center. And that's why you are seeing high rises, then you are seeing fast food joints, coffee joints, all built into it. And that's why you are seeing malls also built around it, so that everybody is targeting that cluster of people. But with the advent of COVID and technology that is making people work even more remotely away from home, if those offices become empty, there is no market for those malls, there is no market for energy supply. So that's another problem for another day. But the synergy between us and Ministry of Transport is a very good point to make. In the process, we need the rail, and that's the only way, one of the ways, not the only way, one of the ways in which our roads will last longer. Another way is to enforce axle load compliance. People must not overload the cargo. But the important thing first is to take heavy cargo away from the roads and put them on rail tracks. So that's why the Abuja to Kano rail line, the Lagos-Ibadan rail line, and the Calabar to Maiduguri rail line, and all the other rail projects that are coming on stream are very important to me as minister, and of course to all of us as a ministry and to our country. For example, we have had to second an engineer to the Ministry of Transportation at the request of the ministry to help them with certain levels of their procurement in order to make it faster. Lagos-Ibadan now is reducing the traffic on the Lagos-Ibadan road. And so you will have choice of transportation. Do I go by rail? Do I go by road? And once people have choice, they are on the brink and on the cusp of prosperity. Life is less difficult, life is less frustrating. Another area of synergy is that you might not have noticed, if you go to Costain, for example, in Lagos, a bridge that used to be there was demolished. It was our bridge. But the minister, Amechi, wrote to me that, look, BRF, I need you to approve this so that we can build the rail. So without that kind of collaboration, you don't have the Apapa-Ido rail line corridor that leads to Lagos-Ibadan. So I was happy to let go of that, and that provided the speed, the enablement for them to quickly construct, and they replaced the bridge with a new one. So we're working together, and this again are things that people don't see in public. In places where they have to relocate people's houses and compute compensation, the statutory consultant of government for compensation assessment is the Directorate of Lands in the Ministry of Housing, in the Ministry of Works and Housing. So they have to refer all of those claims to us. We have to help them vet it and give our advice and opinion as to what is an appropriate valuation.
Interesting. Many thanks for that information again. I think that one of my takeaway from this interview today is the fact that your ministry and your office tries to provide balance for the government and of course and the people, because with all that you've shared thus far is about, you know, infrastructure, basic amenities for the people and all of that. And
yes, but one thing to note is that we couldn't go too far without the Ministry of Finance and the Ministry of Budget.
Absolutely.
So, and we couldn't go very far without the Ministry of Justice, because all of these contracts have agreements. So the legal officers in our ministry are not staff of Ministry of Works. They are seconded here by the Ministry of Justice. The man who pays in the finance and accounts is not a staff, it's not an engineer, the staff of the Accountant General. So the people who process and write the memos are staff of the head of service.
Interesting.
The people who do the procurement are staff of the Directorate Bureau of Public Procurement. So the real core staff of this ministry are the engineers and the builders.
So the ground logistics people.
So, but everybody works in a team to produce the results.
I say well done and kudos to all you've done thus far.
Thank
you. But you know, when it comes to infrastructure, I also feel that it has brought about the economic development that favors the government directly, if you ask me, because its measure of performance with all that you've shared thus far is alarming, and it's, of course, it's a good one for us.
I think I was really quite impressed with Mr. Fashola's. I was impressed with, to an extent, what he had to say. I really do not envy him because that's a large ministry. It is. Works in housing together, you know, to cover the entire country. Of note, he said, it's nice to know really that the road projects are actually being monitored. And I think that's interesting because time was when, you know, you ask for road reconstructions and, you know, they just mark off on their files in the ministry that road A, B, C, and D have been done without proper monitoring. Knowing the kind of person Minister Fashola is, I am not surprised that these projects are being monitored. And I say this because my sister lives somewhere on Arikpo, and she says between Bega and Arikpo now takes about 6 minutes. And I think that is really commendable. It is. It's taking a whole load off them in terms of traffic. So I give that to him. Of note again, he said housing scarcity is an urban challenge. And I completely agree with him. You see the migration from the villages to where I am domiciled, Lagos, on a daily basis. So the truth is the houses in the villages, in the rural areas, are mostly always empty. So because of that migration from the rural to the urban area. So I agree with him.
I expected also to, yeah, he has pointed out that they've discovered that basically the housing deficit is an urbanization thing.
He actually said that.
Yes, he agreed. But I equally expected to see an even distribution, like Kike rightly asked him, and he was trying to. I feel there was an avoidance on his own side of balancing in answering that question, in saying what he sees as a Nigeria, and he would like to see Nigeria east and west going to north and south. It didn't make any sense for me. I expected to see a systemic solution to the housing deficit. Yes, it's not enough for you to let me know that you're aware that there's housing deficit, but I'd like to see, yes, you know, empirically what you're doing about it. I think that question was
all right, because
not
of
satisfactorily answered.
Many thanks for your contribution, guys, and I think that more importantly, you spoke about the synergy between the Minister of Transportation, that's Rotimi and Meiji, and how they have collaborated for common good and benefit of the people, which is more importantly. But quickly, because of time, let's go to the last segment of the show, which is the trending stories that binds us together as family. And I feel the first trending story that caught our attention is that of the 1 year and 7 months old who received 31 strokes, you know, of cane that eventually led to the death of the child. And this happened in Delta State. I'm sure this is what is showing at the moment. You know, but quickly, and therefore, what's your take on this when you saw it?
First, when I heard, I was like, excuse my French. I said, this is more than witchcraft. How do you give a 1 year old for pouring water on the floor or something 31 strokes? A woman doing that to another woman's child, a 1-year-old infant that knows next to nothing. The honest truth is, where is the education board in Nigeria? Time was when we were growing up, they do school inspections. Most of these people, some of these people, I'm sorry, who own schools have no business running schools. That's the truth. You put a group of frustrated people together.
Should be arrested in the school.
Where
were other people? Where were others?
31 strokes for a 1-year-old. 1 year old.
It is.
Kike, that's unthinkable. It's unthinkable.
I agree with you that it's unthinkable. And honestly, I'm worried for humanity and, of course, Nigeria at large.
Yes.
I honestly did not know how to process this information. Even I couldn't even look at the pictures. I couldn't watch the video. I can't still process it because I feel that the teacher must be insane and definitely mad, for lack of a better word, right now. And I feel that that is where mental health comes into play. Most times, I feel that sometimes these teachers bring their frustration to the school environment. And if you ask me, how can you beat a baby for that matter, a baby for crying out loud? Who beats a baby? You know, it's just ridiculous. But as far as I'm concerned, I just feel that our society is treating children with nonchalant behavior, and that is the reason why things like this have continued. Because where am I driving at? Because I feel that looking at this, for instance, I feel that why on earth will something like this even happen? All the governments that we are talking about now, I think from the little that I gathered, I heard that the school had been closed and that they've handed over the culprit to the police. Kike. And at the end of the day, I feel that we keep on hearing all of this, and you keep hearing, oh, they are on trial, they are this. For the record, let me bring us back to speed, because sometimes I think that things are being swept under the carpet, and before you know it, we forget about that. Our legal system is the culprit, if you ask me, because they've kind of left all this evil and corruption to continue in our society. True. It's not about what we think anymore. It's not about what we feel that should have been done. The question is, who made the laws to govern these people that are actually in the school environment? And if you ask me, such discipline, you know, I'm asking myself, when you say that you've closed down the school, what's going to happen next? Something like this, Masha, can never happen during the military era. And I feel that during those periods, there are discipline and quick action that takes place when it comes to justice. Now, coming back to what happened, I think exactly since September 2021, when Chidinma, who killed the TVC, the TV CEO, what's the name? I can't remember the guy's name now. The story is still still ongoing, if you ask me, and there are a lot of series of trials that are still ongoing. So in my head, I'm asking myself, what's going to happen eventually? I've heard the stories of the billionaire kidnapper since 2016. His case is still yet not to be closed. At a point in time, you start asking yourself, what is going on here? So those are all the cases that I look at, and I'm asking myself, who exactly do we hold responsible? Because I have seen a lot of killings. We can see the likes of this Chidinma as well, who also killed someone, and the presence and they said that the lady went for a job interview, and I think that happened last year, 2021. Again, who should we hold responsible? The culprit involved is still living and is still breathing God's air to you know, and these are things that annoys me. Look at Oromo Sylvester as well. This happened exactly in 2021. The judgment is yet to be served. So the killer of another 5-year-old that also happened, and Hanifa which happened exactly January. He's not singing it. He's singing exactly a new song. And these people are still living, Marshall. So if you ask me, the process at which we are trying to hold people responsible is what I feel that we need to tighten, so that all these crimes can reduce. So, and I'm asking myself, where are we headed when every day, every time we come on this platform, you hear all sorts of stories, and I'm asking, how can justice prevail?
Question is,
when all the cases that have happened in the last decade are still swept under the carpet. Masha, you know, because of time, let's quickly touch on the second story. And the second story, you know, I think is a little bit better because of Valentine. I know some Some people.
Marshall.
No, really,
Once I play Valentine, yesterday was Valentine. Marshall, what's your take on Valentine? What's your message to the people? I think that sometimes Valentine's Day, St. Valentine is being misrepresented. Yeah. But Marshall, what's your take on this?
Well, Valentine's Day is a day of love. Like in my own organization, we shared love. We reached out to people. It's a day to remember that even if you had forgotten in the 364 days that to reach out to someone and say extend love, that day is a special day to remind you that you need to. Like yesterday, I was telling my staff, do you actually know the meaning of good morning when someone tells you good morning? You just feel sometimes it's just a way of greeting and you just have to say it. It's always on your lips. It's a way of actually extending a love to somebody. And, you know, we actually did our own parts. And I'd want to use this to connect to the first story. We should share some love. It's a teacher in that school that flogged someone, not even the owner. Where were the owners? Where were the proprietors? Where were other teachers?
All right, on that note, I think this is where we come to the end of another interesting episode of Real Talk with Kike. But I think that what is paramount is that kindness and care should never depart from us, and we should always look out for each other and be each other's keeper. On this note, this is where we come to the end of another interesting episode of Real Talk with Kike. So we'll come your way next week on Thursday. Please be kind to your neighbor. Bye now.
Bye.